it's easy to recognize how boys can be different from girls, including how they learn in school. Well, joining us is Dr. Leonard Sax, expert on what's called gender-specific education. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for inviting me.
All right, so you wrote a book called Boys Adrift, and you're going to be talking about that tonight. Why is this so important, this gender-specific education? And it's got a lot of people talking.
Well, it's a real concern nationwide, really, that young men don't seem to have the drive, the energy, the engagement that young men had just 20 years ago. Look, it's great that girls are doing so well in school, but when you look at this emerging gender gap with boys doing much less well than their sisters on many parameters of academic achievement, you find it's not so much that the girls are doing better, it's that the boys are doing worse.
What's happening?
American boys have decided that working hard to get an A instead of a B is uncool, it's unmasculine, and they'd rather play video games. This is new. It wasn't the case in this country 20 or 30 years ago, but it is today. A growing proportion of boys and young men not working hard, a growing proportion of 20-something men who are not working and not looking for work, happy to play video games in their parents' basement.
So how do we change that?
Well, you have to create an alternative culture. American culture has shifted. You know, this is not the culture anymore of the Beatles and Sam Cooke or Sidney Poitier and Paul Newman. This is the culture of Akon, 50 Cent, Eminem. And in that culture, in today's culture, the culture that boys are growing up in, working hard to get an A instead of a B is not cool. Blowing off school is cool. So you have to create a different culture. It's hard to do that in the co-ed school. The co-ed school tends to reproduce the larger culture. If you have an all-boys culture with leadership that understands what you're trying to, you know, the boys' school should not be a football camp. It shouldn't be about sports. It should be about creating a culture where you want to be a scholar, a gentleman, and an athlete.
Well, let's talk about another concern for you. You wanted to bring up social media, too, and why that's such a big concern, in particular for girls.
Yeah. So all this new data really over the last 3 years showing that the more time a girl spends on Instagram or Facebook and the more friends or followers she has on those sites, the more likely she is to become depressed. But that's only true for girls. It's not true for boys. Social media appear to be toxic for girls in a way that they're not for boys.
Well, we are just scratching the surface, and you've got a seminar coming up tonight.
Yes.
It'll be great to hear you talk at Tinney Theater at St. Andrew's Cathedral. That's from 6:30. Free to the public, right?
Yes, it is.
Free to the public. All right, more from Dr. Leonard Sax, if you so choose, tonight. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. All right, coming up.